Right, we are back with Change of Pace, not live today. This is a recording. And I've got with me Rehan Ul Haq. He manages and leads Islamabad United. He's led them to two PSL titles. And we've talked to him about this on and off on Twitter, off Twitter. We've heard a lot about the Islamabad success stories, about the PSL success stories. Tonight's conversation is not that positive, though. It's not about the success that Rehan has brought to Islamabad, and it's not about all the good things that come with the Pakistan Super League. It's a lot more grounded. It's a lot more grassroots, and it's actually about the negatives about this new domestic structure. We've heard the positives on the show. We've spoken to Amanda about it, spoken to Bazid about it, and a lot of silver linings that might go with this new competition. But the fact remains that there are players on the ground, people on the ground that are part of this system, that depend on the system. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to take it step by step, see where we go. And I don't think there's a more qualified person that can tell us about this than you, Rehan. But I'll start with you. How is the off season treating you? We'll slowly get into the hard hitting stuff. How have you been doing in the off season?
Uh, all good. I think just trying to keep up with the Pakistan cricket. It's every day something new happens. Every day there's new news. So there's that. And surprisingly, I'm very optimistic about Pakistan's chances at the World T20, despite what everyone's saying. But I think Pakistan has a really good team in the UAE, and I generally am a very optimistic person. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that, by the way, because I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like it's been a
Yeah.
while since I've seen a more clear strategy. Whether I agree or disagree with the strategy, that's a different conversation. But
Yeah.
at least there's an approach. Before I get into that, Rehan, you work with a lot of the guys that don't play international cricket for Pakistan, but are in what we like to call Pakistan circuit. They're there about, some of them make it to Islamabad, some of them play for other PSL teams, and a large contingent of them don't even do that. They play the
Yeah.
National T20 Cup. They play for first 11s and second 11s. And previously, 2 years ago, before the current Pakistani government and the current Pakistani Cricket Board, they were also playing for something called departments. They were making
Yeah.
decent money, had stable jobs. Let's start with discussing the cricketing shift between having X amount of teams and boiling it down to just six.
Yeah. I think to start off, I was one of the biggest advocates for the change in the domestic structure and to get rid of the department cricket. However, I thought that if that would happen, then there would be some sort of financial security for the players. So generally speaking, I don't think six teams are enough for a population of more than 20 million. I think that's too little. I think the model that's being followed is the Australian model, but Australia doesn't have that population. Also, cricket is not the biggest sport in Australia, so the number of people who take up cricket in schools or colleges or professionally are far lower than in Pakistan. So, firstly, what happened with the reduction in teams is that there were a lot of cricketers and a lot of coaching staff and management staff who were out of jobs. So there was this entire segment of people who suddenly had no jobs left. So I mean, if that happens overnight, one, I don't think it's fair. Two, I think it could have been handled in a much better manner. The idea of reducing the number of teams, okay, fine, you go with six teams, and the idea is that when six teams will compete, then the best players will be competing with each other, and by the time they go to the PSL or to the national team, they would be so polished that they're ready for international cricket. Now, the problem with that is there are a lot of players who would have taken up cricket at the age bracket between 16 years and 19 years have had almost no cricket in the last 2 years. So a lot of those kids have now moved on from cricket to something else because for them, cricket is not something that they do in their leisure time. It is something which is their profession. They want to make money out of it so that they can take care of their families, they can take care of their own needs. So with six teams, that was a problem. Then the entire grassroots system, in trying to set that up, it took a lot of time. And then there was this entire process in which a lot of players who could have benefited the younger guys by being just around the squads, by being just part of the team, they were moved on because it was thought they were surplus to requirements. But the problem with that is that if you move on all these players, who's the younger lot going to learn from? And that automatically reduces the competition in the domestic level.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we haven't had much time to know how this will have a impact on the Pakistan team, because
Yeah, we've
at
had
least
one season,
this needs around a decade to get the results that
but a
were
decade
being
might be
planned.
too
So
late.
yeah, but I think any new system needs a lot of time, because if you're trying to do it from the grassroots level, so basically when a 16-year-old takes up cricket, by the time that he turns 26, that from 26 to 34 are basically your peak years as a
Yeah,
cricketer.
yeah.
So I mean to say, for that to develop, it needs at least a decade. So that's my assumption, in that any change in system, and then they will be moved to upper teams, and then second 11s, then the first 11, and it will take time. But the concern isn't the quality of competition. The concern is that a lot of players who now are playing in these six teams do not make enough money to sustain playing cricket. So just and then you can ask me further questions on this, but just to give you an example. So the idea with reducing six teams is the number of players have been reduced.
Yeah.
The number of players reduced, and the number of teams reduced should mean that you have more money to pay to the players,
Yeah.
because now there are lesser number of people you need to pay money to,
Yeah, because what
right?
you're doing is you're filtering out elite talent, right? So the
Yeah,
elite talent
yeah,
should get paid more than a bunch of people playing the sport.
yeah. But that hasn't happened. When this initially came out, and this is one of the funniest statements I've ever come across. One of the statements given by the people in charge of making this system at the time, the people who were doing the salaries, they said we have taken the average salary of all teams, which is false, which is incorrect. And I just want to tell people that what they did was that they took average salaries of regional teams, not departmental teams. So
Right.
departments were paying their players far more money. So, for example, a Misbah ul Haq or an Azhar Ali or an Asad Shafiq, your test team players were SNGPL was paying them a lot of money. So now they're from them earning from around 300,000 rupee PKR to suddenly being brought down to 100,000 to 125,000 PKR in the first season. That was something that made very little sense.
Yeah.
And so basically you suddenly wanted averages, but you did not take overall averages, and in the end what happened was that everyone was getting paid less. And then there were people who thought that Sami Aslam is one example. Everyone talks about Sami Aslam.
Of
So
course.
Sami Aslam, the treatment that he got from his coaches and everything, and he thought that he was a good enough player to, if not represent Pakistan, then be at least in
I
the
mean, he
plans
did.
to play for
He did
Pakistan.
and played
Yeah,
for us.
yeah.
But let me
So
wait.
he
Let me
thought he was
before you go
like,
into the details, Rehan. I want to just understand the concept here, right?
yeah,
Before they took the average of the salaries, the truth, the reality was that you had two pools of Pakistani players. You had one pool, and
yeah,
you can correct me if I'm wrong. You had one pool playing for the regions and one pool
yeah,
playing for what we call departments, essentially government or
yeah,
private sector companies.
yeah,
Now, ideally or naturally, because the companies and the departments were paying more, they attracted the better player. So what
yeah,
we did,
yeah.
and when I say we, I mean Pakistan cricket as a whole, is we averaged out the salaries of, for lack of better term, tier two players.
Yes, yes, 100%. You're spot on with that. That is exactly what happened. And so overall averages, if you compare the numbers, I have salaries from 2016. So this is like 5 years ago. And even in 5 years ago, players were getting paid more than they are being paid right now.
Yeah.
So, and you take into account the inflation, the dollar value, and everything. So you take that into account, and then you'd realize that these guys are struggling to make ends meet, let alone play cricket. Uh, and I can get into detail. There's like just a small example. Okay, so uh, the highest paid player in for one of the six teams gets a monthly salary of around 180,000 Pakistani rupees. Okay,
Okay.
so they are only 10 players who get this. These are
10 players
guys
across six
who are
teams,
across six teams. Yes, yes,
not in one team.
10
10 players
players across,
across six
no,
teams.
across six teams. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now what happened? So the idea was that you have, and this happened last year. Before that, even this category did not exist. They call it the category A, or they call it the fringe players for Pakistan. So basically, every player who plays for Pakistan but doesn't get a central contract was they were adjusted into this category,
Sure.
and they were paid 180,000, roughly around that figure. So now a cricket bat, a good quality cricket bat, costs 125,000 rupees. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you buy a cricket bat, what you're left with is what, 55,000 rupees. You cut taxes in that.
Yeah.
What you're left with is around 40,000 rupees. A pair of gloves, good quality pair of gloves, costs around 10,000 rupees. You take that out, what is the player left with? And this is the highest paid
That's the best.
person.
That's the best in Pakistan. The
The,
best
the
out of
best. Yeah.
220 million people.
Yeah. So what happens then is, so then, fans and everyone, and they all complain that Pakistani players are not good enough. Okay. If a 18-year-old Indian player is getting more money, can buy better bats, can have better gloves, can have better helmets, can have individual trainers, can hire a nutritionist, can hire a sports psychologist,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, a Pakistani guy at the same age has none of these facilities.
Yeah.
How do you expect him to compete with that guy?
Not just
That
any of
is,
the facilities, but in my opinion, would have to add on to the stress of not being financially secure, the baggage.
yes,
And
yes,
you can speak to this as well, that becoming a cricketer in Pakistan, even in the good, well, I say good days, but better days financially, was a risk for a family, because you would kind of
yeah,
put out a breadwinner and say, okay, go out and play this sport because you want to, and you might end up making
yeah.
decent amount of money. So you're taking that away, that aspect away as well, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, for a lot of people talk about, how, uh, and this annoys me sometimes when, people talk about how the cricketers from the 50s, 60s, and 70s were, better behaved, or those terms are being used, and that's because school cricket was played a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys came from school cricket. Okay, and then cricket was not completely a professional sport, it was semi-professional sport, and then Kardar Sahib took up this stance and basically got the departments involved, and then it became more professional. And with time, cricket became, so either you could pursue your education or you could pursue cricket. You couldn't do two things together. There was this point, and some people have managed to do that successfully, that they pursued their education and also played cricket. But that not only in cricket, in all other sports, if you want to become a top quality international level athlete, there's a certain age that you need to take up that sport, and then you don't have time for any other thing.
Yeah.
That is the one thing
Your
that you
life.
do, right? So basically that transition, and then we had this 80s team, the 90s team, and now, and so basically cricket was thought to be this thing that it's your way out of troubled times at home. You will be financially secure if you make it to that level. But that was just for the top level players.
Yeah.
But at least with departments coming in, what happened was that a lot of these guys, when they were 18, 19, 20 years old, you would used to get picked up by departments. I'll give you an example of Zafar Gohar. When he
Yeah.
was playing under 19 cricket, he was one of the best under 19 players. Okay, so immediately one of the departments spotted him, and then they gave him a job at a department, so that immediately got him security, right? So now that is no longer happening. So a player who's 16 years old, between the age of 16 and 22, who's taking up cricket at this time, will not get that security.
Yeah.
So how do you expect that person to carry on playing cricket? It is a very expensive sport. You ask any cricketer, and the amount of money that's been invested by their parents or people they've worked with, it's unbelievable. Just Mohammad Amir is one example. He plays for Pindi. You ask how much investment his coach made on him, the guy from Pindi.
Yeah.
He worked day and night with him, and he got him to that level.
And that's
So
just
these are sacrifices.
and that's just time, Rehan, because you've mentioned really expensive equipment, 120,000 rupees for a bat and the gloves that are coming with
Yeah,
it. In fact, that's something that really irked me. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about
yeah,
the NCAA model, right? There are college athletes that don't get paid. It's a problem in
yeah,
America. It's
yeah,
it's in the
yeah,
conversation every time March Madness comes around. And for people in
yeah,
Pakistan who don't know what this is, it's a college basketball tournament where the athletes don't get paid. It's a horrible system, but even in that system,
yeah,
your equipment is taken care of. Your equipment, your
yeah,
nutrition, your training, and in certain cases, even your lodging is taken care of. So
yeah,
let's now I want to understand that if I at the age of 18 or 17, if I was to sign up to play for Central Punjab, which is one of the
Yeah,
strongest sides in amongst these six,
yeah.
you're telling me that I'm not going to get my equipment from them? They're not going to take care of my
So
nutrition? They're not going to give me a trainer?
one one I don't think you will even get picked by them, because you have to go through the entire club cricket process, and if they think you're good enough, is the only way that you will get into their second 11s. Okay,
Right. Okay.
firstly that process needs to be taken care of, and for that process you need to spend your own money. And if you go to a club and the coach really likes you, then the coach will take care of you, the club will take care of you. There are some clubs in Pakistan who are doing an absolutely marvelous job, that they take care of the players equipment and give them, bats and all of that, but they're not the same quality that a player of the same age would get in other countries.
Sure.
Okay, and that's just the sad reality of it all. But okay, you pass through that and you make it to the second 11 or the first 11. You would expect by then you would have the facility. So there were teams in the tournament last year, in the domestic tournament, Kajan Trophy, the listed tournament, and the National T20 Cup, that there were teams who did not have a team masseur with them for parts of the tournament. So I cannot stress enough on how important a masseur is in a team, or a physio is in the team, because every player is playing through niggles. There is no player who's 100% fit ever, because you're playing so much. So
Of
it
course.
takes a strain on your muscles, it takes a strain on your body. So you need these guys. So some teams do not even have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the new idea is that they're trying to sell these teams off to private investors. Okay. So Ali Khan Tareen, for example, has gotten Southern Punjab, and this is, and I'll give credit where credit is due. So Ali, for example, did a marvelous job in he got the best accommodations for his team wherever they were playing, and that deserves a lot of credit. He identified some of the things that the players required. He got that going. He got sponsorship deals from multinational brands such as the KFC,
KFC. Yeah.
and
Saw that.
yeah. So at least Southern Punjab, you saw Southern Punjab were
I
trying
saw
to
a
do
lot of
something.
activity as
Yeah,
well. And that brings me to another point because commercials are so important. We're talking about commercials for people, and you being in the PSL are well aware that cricket is now becoming this conglomerate of money wherever you look at it. What incentives did like I landed in Pakistan in the year 2009, and I leave Karachi airport. I'm driving down, and I see this big poster, this big billboard of HBL, and Yunus Khan and Omar Gul are featuring on it. Right? They have nothing to do with the
yeah,
bank, but they play for HBL. So that was
yeah.
really cool. Now, that for me is very obvious that HBL has a clear incentive of running this cricket team because it can associate itself with some of the best cricketers in the world,
Yeah,
aka some of the biggest personalities in Pakistan. That's how big cricket is in the
yeah,
country. Is
yeah.
there any other incentives for someone like SNGPL or any of the other departments to actually, or PIA for example, which is an organization struggling to stay on its feet, to still continue a cricket team? Because we did get rid of them, but did they even want to have those cricket teams?
There were, I think, some of the departments were very angry at the entire thing happening. Some were glad. For example, UBL, which I think was the best run cricket team, they were the most professional. Um, they backed out before the system changed. They said that they don't have the finances to keep running the cricket team.
Sure.
But UBL had in Pakistan, if you ask me, the most professional department over the in the last 3-4 years of department cricket, that was UBL, because they had some spectacularly talented people working for them. Nadeem Khan, who's now the head of the HPC, yeah, he was working there as their team manager. Hanif Malik, a very underrated guy in Pakistan cricket, he was working with the younger guys, and these guys are very professional. These guys are have enough information about professional cricket, so they were running it really well. But
Yeah.
the department in the end decided to shut down, and Yunus Khan had a lot of issues with that. He actually requested the department to not shut it down, but eventually all departments got shut down. But there were teams who wanted to do that, and as for your question on why investors should come into this, is so cricket is by far the biggest sport in Pakistan. Okay, and
Only.
it's not just the biggest, like not just the biggest sport. Cricket is Pakistan's biggest entertainment.
Yes.
Okay, it is Pakistan's biggest movie. It is Pakistan's best TV series, and it is Pakistan's most famous sport.
Yep.
Okay, so automatically, as soon as you associate with cricket, uh, your marketing goes to another level, and that's something that a lot of companies have recognized. But still there's this, and this is where it gets very frustrating, that still there is this entire segment of people who would laugh it off, and without doing any research, without doing any data on how investments are done and what the marketing results for this are, people just laugh it off because that's just how the market was run for so long, until the PSL came along.
Yeah.
Okay, so the market was so basically players would get to do a commercial for no money almost. Some players would do favors to their friends, and it wasn't as professional as it is now.
Yeah.
Now a lot of agents have come forward, a lot of people are taking this up, and basically that's created a very good environment. But still the numbers are so low that even a Bangladeshi player would make more money from commercials than a Pakistani player would.
Which is so
And that
ridiculous
is,
considering they're literally
yeah,
demigods in Pakistan.
yeah, yeah. They've had cricket for how many years? Like professional cricket for 25 years now.
Yeah, since the 1990s.
And Pakistan's been doing this for 70 years. So there's that. Then on top of that, you add to that. So basically, even if you go to smaller countries and you see someone like a Rashid Khan,
Yeah.
he'll make more commercial money than Babar Azam will. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really frustrating for me. Is that uh, and this is not currently, but in 2016, Hassan and I were working 2015 roughly. Hassan and I were working on these pieces that we wrote for Dawn at the time,
Sure.
and it was Fault in Our Stars, and I wrote one paper. Hassan wrote the other two. Uh, so in that research, I came across some of the salaries from different cricket boards. So the highest paid player in Pakistan at the time was getting less than the category A player of Ireland. Ireland. So imagine, like, compare Pakistan's cricket stature to Ireland's,
Yeah.
and our player was getting paid less than a player from Ireland. And then we have these unreal expectations of these guys to perform at that level when they don't have the same facilities, equipment, or mental peace, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
And and so I'd like, just to further this is I'm sorry, I'm digressing a little, but
Yeah.
how can, so in no profession in the world can you, unless it's bonded labor or something,
Which
there's
is
no profession in
increasingly
the
trying
world.
to sound like now Pakistan cricket, but
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, where you can tell a person to move from his current job to another job without asking them. Okay, so right now in the new domestic season, players were transferred from one team to another team without their approvals.
No consent
Okay,
taken.
no consent taken.
And they have to move physically. They have to move homes as well, don't they?
So yeah, so basically, moving homes is not that difficult, because most of the games, because we are living in COVID times, are played at a
Yeah.
single venue, so they all stay at hotels and all,
Yeah.
which is fine. But like, just to give you an example, so if I am for example, a captain of a team, okay, and I do really well for my team. Next season they move me to another team where I'm not the captain. So what message are you sending to people who are, so basically you're developing no one. There's no development of any player into
Yeah.
the next national leader. And by captain, I don't mean every player who plays for the national team doesn't need to be captain. But if there are 3-4 people who are coming into the national team who have captaincy experience, they can help out the captain.
Of course they can.
And and in the PSL, and I'll just give you an example of the PSL. Misbah ul Haq was one of the most experienced captains. He was captain of Islamabad United. Even he took help from someone like a Shane Watson
Of course.
or a JP Dumini. Okay, so that helps.
But
The level of
you're
experience.
telling me Qatar Trophy final hero Hassan Ali, who was also captaining his side, could
Yeah,
have woken up last week and found himself in a new
yeah,
team without him knowing.
yes, yes. It happened to some players.
But do you understand how
Uh,
ridiculous that sounds to somebody who's not part of the system? How insane that is.
it sounds ridiculous to even people who are in the system. The players, when they found out that this was going on, some of them were shocked, because the idea was to build teams and build these teams for the next 4 or 5 years. It wasn't that one night you will be playing for one team and the next
Yeah.
morning you're told that you are now playing for another. And so now, for example, one of my favorite coaches in the Pakistan domestic structure, two of my favorite coaches are Shahid Aslam,
Yeah.
uh, who was Shahid was coach of Central Punjab last season, and he took all the hard calls. He told the seniors that he'd rather rely on his younger players. When his team was losing, he did not go back to his senior players. He kept trusting them, and the results showed that they reached the Kaizen Trophy final under Hassan Ali's captaincy. They did really well. The other guy is Abdur Rahman,
Yeah.
who's done a fabulous job with. He used to work with Peshawar, so Peshawar won National T20 Cup after National T20 Cup, and they were the most successful National T20 team. Now, last year, Shahid was Central Punjab's coach. He's been moved to Southern Punjab. Southern Punjab's coach, Abdur Rahman, has been moved to KP. And KP's coach, Abdul Razak is now Central Punjab's coach. So immediately, if I am a player and if I work with the coach to build my reputation as an under 19, under 20 player, and next year the coach moves, I have to start from scratch. I lose an entire year. I have sat on the bench. I've impressed the coach in training. I've impressed the coach in practices. Now I have to do all of that all over again, and I make no
Yeah.
money.
And what about
There is
somebody
no
who's the
motivation.
second 11, who was just about to hit that first 11, who was about to be on TV, about to be on YouTube, and all that? They're not.
Yeah,
They're not gonna.
yeah,
They're gonna have to restart. And you keep,
absolutely.
Ron, you're talking about the larger cricket picture here. Let me be super selfish, right? Let's talk about
Yeah,
human beings here. That naturally, in the normal capitalist world, you get to pick where you want to work and who you want to work with,
yeah,
and
yeah,
a large part of your life is dependent. We might not notice it on the people that we work with and the environment that we work with.
yeah,
What if I
yeah,
enjoy playing for Balochistan? What if I've developed a certain bond with my teammates, with my captain, my coach understands me better than some of my family members do. So you're just gonna pluck me
yeah,
out of that and drop me in the middle of, I don't know, like a KP team or a Sin team. I'm not saying
yeah,
that these are bad teams, right? Because it's still Pakistan cricket, but you're changing your colleagues, you're changing your manager, you're changing your I mean, your job title ideally will remain the same, but I've never heard of anything like this. Even the NCAA, again, I keep going to that example
yeah,
because that
yeah,
example is so widely criticized. You know how many movies and
yeah,
how many
yeah,
articles have been written against the NCAA, but even
yeah,
that right now seems like a better system than this.
yeah. So it's so funny. So as you pointed out, like the human element of it all is so scary that you realize that sometimes you realize that you make fun of these cricketers when they don't perform and all. Yeah, and then you realize that these guys are thrown around like pieces of paper, like trash, and they're not asked their opinions, and they just have to put their head down. And if someone, for example, even posts something on digital media or social media, then they get trolled for not concentrating enough on their sport. Like they have no breaks,
Yeah.
and that's really unfortunate. And I'm telling you, mental health is a huge issue in Pakistan cricket, which is ignored.
Do we even
Mental
realize
health.
that it is though? Because you're saying it, not many people do.
Yeah, I know. I know. So basically, as soon as you say, as soon as in Pakistan cricket you say that I'm a little down and I need a little help, so immediately the first thing that they're told by their colleagues and their coaches and the ex players is that तुम बहादुर नहीं हो, तुम बुजदिल हो,
No.
दलेर नहीं हो तुम, ठीक है? So
God.
immediately, like, the question doesn't go to addressing the issue, it immediately goes to how masculine or how brave you are, and all these other words that are associated with a sport that needs people to understand that if you are to be successful as a athlete in this sport or as a country in this sport, your sportsmen are going to win you matches,
Yeah.
everyone else around you isn't. I work for Islamabad United. Okay. I am not the star of the team. The players are the star of the team. They are the ones who are going to go out on the field. If we lose a match, what is the maximum that's going to happen to me? That two people will say, "Oh my God, you made a bad choice," and some people will troll me, and
Sure.
maybe what will happen is that I will be depressed for a couple of days. A player, if he has an off season, will not get picked next season.
It's life
He
on the
and
line,
imagine
isn't
the
it? It's
yeah,
life on the line kind of stuff.
imagine imagine the amount of pressure, and imagine that it's not just, you aren't just playing for yourself, you're also playing for your family back home, who are subjected to all the hatred as well when you fail, who are relying on you to make money, who are relying on you to
Yeah,
basically make ends meet, because they invested in you and now they expect you to return that investment.
yeah.
And it's really unfortunate where we stand with Pakistan cricket right now, in terms of, if this carries on, then do not expect future generations to take Pakistan cricket seriously and
Or
take it
even
up
take
as
part in it,
profession.
right? Let's, because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that
Yeah,
because it's, for me, this is so frightening. Somebody moves my seat at work and I lose my shit, right? I go, what?
yeah,
Where's my chair? Not even my desk. It's just like, where's
yeah,
my chair?
yeah,
And now these people
yeah,
are just, these very, very young men that, you know, at that age, 18, 19, we both know you're very volatile as a human being as well. You're trying to get a grasp of your emotions. You're trying to understand what the next 5 years are going to look like. And then there's a lot of other bullshit happening too. Like you're just trying to be a man. And on top
yeah,
of that, you're
yeah,
being thrown around like this. Our parents' generation had this term called brain drain. They used it for
yeah,
engineers
yeah,
and doctors that went to
yeah,
the US and Canada and even the Middle East and spent their
yeah,
lives there, building incredible careers, servicing those communities in all the ways they could. Sami Aslam is now in the US. He's making more money than he
yeah,
would in Pakistan. He played for Pakistan, which means that he's a quality cricketer, right? We talk about nepotism
yeah,
and all that, but if you were actually shit at cricket, you would not be able to play for Pakistan because they just wouldn't pass. You wouldn't even be able to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it just wouldn't work. Yes, nepotism
yeah,
exists, but you have to be at least a certain level to play for Pakistan, to open in front of
yeah,
200 million people, right? That's what Sami did.
yeah,
How many now he's around my age, right? So he's about 25, 26 right now. Something
yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
what about the guys that are 18, 19, even all the way to 21? They look at Sami, they look at a bunch of other people. They look at the way we are treating them in terms of throwing them around. Why should they not go and play in Canada and America where, we can even, the elephant in the room, quality of life is a lot better there. Like we're not talking,
yeah, yeah,
even for
yeah,
someone that's working class, but just from a cricketing perspective, in terms of safety, money, salary, and maybe even naturalization. Why would you, as a Pakistani player, say no?
yeah, yeah. And the thing is that only 11 players are going to play for Pakistan, which is great. Okay, you play for Pakistan, amazing. You're Babar Azam, you're Rizwan, you're Shaheen Shafi, you're Hassan Ali, great. But not everyone can do that, right? Not everyone can be regularly part of the national team. So a lot of these guys who are at that age bracket, so basically, you don't even need to look at someone like a Sami Aslam. Look at Imran Tahir. Look at
Sure.
Imran Tahir and how he was treated in Pakistan's domestic structure, and he moved and he became one of the best bowlers in white ball cricket, one of the best T20 bowlers ever.
Yeah.
And that's because he moved out of Pakistan. He would never have gotten the same opportunities here. Okay,
Yeah.
and and basically, if you talk to Imran Tahir from now to Imran Tahir from back then, you would realize that he the amount of negativity that comes with Pakistan cricket, and when you are doing well but you can't make it to that next step, the
Yeah.
amount of negativity that comes with it, the amount of financial pressure that comes with it, it wears you down. And it's a great decision that Imran Tahir decided to move and he became this world star. Okay, now Sami Aslam, Imran Tahir are examples everyone knows about. I'll give you an example of, there were, and I can't name them for
Sure.
obvious reasons, but
That's fine.
an under 16 guy from Islamabad, Rawalpindi, one of the most talented kids, and thought to be, this is about 4 years ago, thought to be the next best thing in Pakistan cricket in terms of his batting and everything. He played with a lot of these guys that are playing right now. Uh, he ended up moving to Hong Kong, uh,
Right.
and not to just play cricket, because he was still playing cricket there, but he moved to Hong Kong because he couldn't sustain the money required to play cricket, so he had another job in Hong Kong. So he
Okay.
was playing cricket there, not professionally, semi-professionally. Okay,
Sure.
so that's one example. There are so many other examples who went in the past And in the past, the salary structure was still better than it is now. So now more people will go because bigger investments are coming in from the USA.
Yeah,
And so basically what the US have done, and people need to understand, the US have given them goals to qualify for the World T20 in the next decade. Okay. So they are
that's very
starting their
ambitious, don't you
major.
think? Like from a cricketing perspective, don't you think it's crazy?
I think if you have enough, like in the like we live in a capitalistic world, and if I think if you have enough money and enough resources, you can give yourself those targets, and the US has that.
Right.
So right now, their model is that they're going to start their major league cricket as soon as possible. Some of the American players have already signed their central contracts, which had never happened before. So the
Right.
central contracts were signed. And then a lot of players from Pakistan, even India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they reached out to these guys and asked them to come there to be eligible to play for the USA after a certain age. And they have signed their contracts with the
Yeah. I've just lost your. Hold on. I've just lost your audio, around. 1 second. Can you have a look?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. It was my. I think it was my internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that so they're starting a franchise cricket, which is going to challenge a lot of leagues in the world. Maybe not the IPL, but every other league in the world. So the money that's coming in will attract a lot of players, and some of the West Indian guys, some of the Australian guys will go to play their just franchise cricket, but they would want countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh to provide players to them. And there's a huge diaspora of Asian cricket lovers in the USA,
Yeah, for sure.
and they want to utilize that. They want to utilize that, and that's fair on their part. They have this vision they want to take care of. But if Pakistan continues to treat its players the way it is treating its players, Pakistan will lose a lot of high quality players, and because of that, the quality of your domestic cricket will become lower. The idea of having a competitive 6 team tournament where all the best players are playing, and in which in turn will mean that the national team's level of cricket will also drop.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem with Pakistan, that whenever you want to talk about progressive change in Pakistan, everyone goes back to how great the Pakistan test team was in the 80s.
Yes.
And I go back to this point that in the 80s, every team was doing what Pakistan was doing, and Pakistan had more talent. Okay. So we were on par with every team. And that's why,
Yeah.
and with West, we were the second best team. West Indies was the best team. But we have not changed anything. We've stuck there. Every other team has gone there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were doing
Every other
we
team
were
has,
doing international best processes,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
were naturally more talented. Okay, great.
yeah,
So now we're not even doing our best practices and
yeah,
are expecting the same results, even though everybody else
yeah,
around us is nurturing
yeah,
more talent more systematically, isn't it? Nobody else is winking in
yeah,
the
yeah,
dark because they have these
yeah,
specific systems in place that are churning out talent, right? I mean,
yeah,
you look at the likes of England post 2015. India are like a behemoth. Of course, it's hard to compare to them, but even then, I look at the big three, Virat and Rohit and Dhawan going out. I can mention 6 guys that are going to replace them. So
yeah,
the systems are very apparent. I want to go back to the American cricket dream because yes,
yeah.
they're going to attract a lot of South Asian cricketers. Naturally, you'll see a lot of Pakistani and Indians and Bangladeshis go, but we can't stop that. Our goal should be to be able to retain the best.
I think we can to an extent stop that. And how I think if you just make players a little financially secure, everyone would want to eventually dreams of playing for Pakistan. Even at the when they think that their career is over, they would rather play for Pakistan than go and play for USA.
Yeah,
That's the power of Pakistan cricket, and we abuse that power.
yeah,
We abuse that power to exploit players and exploit them. I'll give you an example, a small example. So what can be done is that every cricket board in the world, every test playing cricket board in the world, apart from Pakistan, shares a percentage of revenue, commercial revenues that they make in a year
with
with
the
the
players.
players.
Yeah,
Yeah. So basically, even domestic teams, their second 11s, all those teams get a certain percentage of the shares that the cricket board is making. There was an entire movement in Australia where this happened, and so Australia's players, their B team players make more money than a Pakistani centrally
Yep.
contracted player
Yep.
makes. Okay, because that's the revenue sharing model, and then they give securities that if you retire, you would have these health benefits, and you would be guaranteed a job after you retire, and all of this. Okay, so if you provide that security, you don't even need to pay extra money.
Hold on, you're
You
not.
just say that
If you're playing for the top six teams in Pakistan, you don't get health insurance.
no,
As a professional cricketer, you don't get health insurance.
no.
So
So so if you're injured, so for
yeah,
example, if you're injured during the season, then yes, it does apply that you
okay,
were playing cricket and that was covered.
okay,
But throughout the year, no.
no,
Uh, and also there are so many examples of players who got injured and they were so when Roman Reis got injured, he was a centrally contracted Pakistan national team player.
yeah. I was gonna talk about Rahman
He paid,
specifically, actually. Yeah,
yeah, he paid for his he paid for all of his surgeries himself. Okay,
but the central contract
uh,
doesn't include that coverage.
it does, but they weren't. They were so stubborn that they wouldn't listen to him. He was saying he did not have an issue in his knee; he had an issue on his back. But everyone was telling him he has an issue in his knee.
Right.
So, and then people have issues with them consulting someone like a Dr. Zaf, who's been super kind to Pakistani players, and he covers most of their visits and medical expenses free of cost. So he's been super kind to Pakistan cricket. Uh, so now hopefully the medical department change. Hopefully that will be a change that will be seen. But there are so many players who get injured and they're not looked after, and suddenly you see them after 3-4 years, and it's annoying. It is very. So my favorite example currently, and everyone knows that because this is right now happening. So Kamran Ghulam,
Yeah.
he was the highest run scorer in the Kazam Trophy. He broke all sorts of records and everything. Okay, and recently I heard someone say that Kamran Ghulam should not be labeled as a 4-day or a 5-day player. He can also play T20 cricket. Just FYI, Kamran Ghulam was firstly a T20 cricketer
Yeah.
who was really good at T20 cricket, and because he had a couple of off seasons, he was completely ignored. He was completely out of the scene. No one knew where he went. Nothing happened with him. No one was working. And suddenly he scores runs. He's back in the picture. Sohaib Maksud had a lot of knee injury problems. He had one good season and suddenly he's back. There are so many examples of people who can't do that, who don't have the resources to make that comeback.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you an example. So
Most people
everyone,
don't,
when
right?
when
Most people don't. Let's be honest.
most of them don't.
Yeah.
Saibzada Farhan played for Pakistan.
Yeah.
He was one of the brightest young talents. Was had a brilliant one-day cup. Was good. Was really good in the PSL for Islamabad United. Had a couple of off seasons, and it is what happened with him. What are the issues that because there is talent there. Obviously, if he was that good, as you mentioned earlier, that is the reason he was picked not only by Pakistan, but so
Yeah.
many other teams, departments, regions, PSL teams, all of them. So he was there.
Yeah.
So that's the job of the cricket board to provide security to players who go through a bad patch with injury or without injury. Either way, they need to be taken
Yeah.
care
I
of,
mean,
and some
honestly,
revenue that the board makes needs to be shared.
it seems bare minimum at this point. Like it seems like you shouldn't have to think about physical rehabilitation. We're here talking about modern day sports concepts like mental therapy and all that. But if we're not even getting the physical side of it right, I mean, that's a far fetched fantasy, the
Yeah,
other stuff.
yeah,
But okay, we've had a lot of doom and gloom, and it's warranted. It's warranted because
yeah,
it's the reality. It's what's happening. Uh, if I'm growing up in Pakistan and I don't have a lot of money, I don't see how I let my kid become a cricketer. Sounds like a ridiculous decision. Uh,
yeah,
what you're doing right now with this conversation, Rehan, is that you're closing the gap between somebody who's a cricket watcher, myself, and somebody who plays cricket
yeah,
semi-professionally, professionally, because
yeah,
this is a conversation we've had a lot of times on Change of Pace is that cricket in Pakistan is not just about the 15, that top 15.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
supposed to be an economy that plays all the way down, right? You're all the way down to even maybe university level, where you should start getting paid
yeah,
for being a good cricketer. That's not happening in Pakistan right now. You can't be a mediocre cricketer and live your life. You either
Yeah.
broke or you pick a different career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't be a
100%.
Sheffield Shield cricketer. You can't be a county
Yeah.
cricketer. That's what we've concluded here is that you either make it to
Yeah.
Pakistan or you become an accountant or something else. Do something else with your life.
Yeah.
No, just
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we're telling them to do, which is really sad because even getting to those six is difficult enough.
Yeah.
Let's see how now this system is not going to change. I very much
Yeah.
doubt that we go back to it in 2 years.
One thing I'd add here is that, and I'm sorry to cut you off. The one good thing that happened was franchise cricket in Pakistan. And I'm not just saying this because I work in franchise cricket, but franchise cricket will pay an emerging player around $8,000 to $9,000, which is more money than he would make playing an entire year of cricket.
Yeah,
Okay. And a silver level player would make roughly between $15,000 to $40,000. Similarly, a gold level, and that's more money than these guys would make playing for their domestic teams. For higher level players, a platinum level player in the PSL makes more money than he will make for by playing for Pakistan.
easily.
So, and yeah, so at least with that, players now aim. There's a smaller aim than the national team. So instead of 11, or
Yeah,
let's say 15, now you can aim for being part of the 90 Pakistani players who are picked in the PSL.
yeah, yeah.
So at least there's that. But even that, if this continues, then 90 is not a big enough number, because the 90 are the same people who are being juggled by one team going to another team going to another team. Franchises do not develop players. That is not their job.
Yeah,
We
it's
only
not.
get players for 1 or 2 months.
Yeah,
Okay. So even PSL franchise scout from within regional teams, pick those players and then bring them to the PSL.
yeah,
So I mean, if that talent pool dries out, if players are leaving, then it will, the quality of the PSL will go down, and eventually the quality of the national team will also go down.
yeah. And the quality of the PSL goes down. We're all in trouble because it's a product
Yeah.
that we don't just like, but there's a lot riding on it. It's supposed to be the financial
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
of Pakistan as well, of Pakistan cricket at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Let me come to the
Yeah.
PSL because it's a question I had for you. You're very close to the way it's run, the way the teams are run. You've already kind of answered some of the questions by saying it's not the franchise's responsibility to develop Pakistan players. I agree
Yeah.
and I understand because you guys were with them for 2 months, 2.5 if you want to include preseason. It's a small fraction of what the year looks like for a Pakistani cricketer. But you are a stakeholder. The Nadeem Umars, the Ali Naqvis, even the Salman Iqbals of the world of Pakistan are stakeholders now in Pakistan cricket. They cannot
Yeah.
absolve themselves of what's happening around them. To that point, is there anything you feel that the PSL could do, or maybe even Islamabad United could do, to bridge this gap, to make life a little bit easier for some of the guys that are trying to become cricketers? Because I mean, you look at the Lahore Qalandars; they've got this PDP, which is sometimes even criticized by Lahore fans, but it exists and it's helped some people. I mean, Haris Rauf is a good example of that. Where do you guys come in the stakeholder map of Pakistan cricket?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I.
Actually, even better now.
Okay. So basically, so I'll explain how franchise cricket is what it is, and then you will get the answer yourself. So basically, the PSL is starting. We get the players a week before the PSL starts. Sometimes we get players 2 days before the PSL starts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We have no time to work with them. We have commercial engagements which are not completed most of the time. That's a huge issue because they're playing for the national team. Whereas if you look at other cricket boards who want to value their league, so basically IPL does this, that India doesn't play any series before that. They have an entire window where players are made available for them for commercial shoots and all of that, right?
yeah, yeah,
That will eventually improve. We are getting there. Hopefully, there's a discussion going on that front.
yeah.
Uh, PSL franchises have no authority or no say in how domestic cricket is run, even if we want to.
Okay, fair enough.
And that is why I can comment on domestic cricket because I have no involvement in it. I can look at it as an outsider. I don't work in it. I do not get paid by it, and I have no authority over it in terms of how I want to change it. Okay, those are three things. What the franchises can do, which Lahore Qalandars have done, and I know people have issues with the player development program and everything, but they have provided security to players. They did. Now I think it's a little different, but at the start they gave players contracts for 5 years, 10 years, and monthly contracts, more giving more money than and Lahore Qalandars was paying more money to their player development program players than domestic teams top players earn. So just as an example, okay.
Which is a good and bad thing. It's good that Lahore is doing it, but it's sad that the PCB is not.
Yeah. And so basically, then you look at other teams and what other teams have done, and a lot of this is not as highlighted as it should be, which is fine, because I think instead of everyone hogging the light, I think the players deserve it. Is that a lot of commercial engagements that players get after the PSL are due to their PSL franchises. And so basically that's a security, financial security that's provided to them. For example, it's not like when a ad is done for the PSL or post the PSL, it's not like beyond a certain number of commitments. After that, you need to pay your players. And I think all franchises pay their players for the commercial shoots and all that. And I think every franchise has done fabulously well with that. And you ask any player in Pakistan what they want to do is that, and they would want to play the PSL, not just for the money that they make from that, is because, for example, an emerging player does really well in the PSL, immediately commercial contracts will come along.
Yeah, it's like Shanawaz Dahani. He's a face of Multan Sultans. Do you think he's synonymous in that team suddenly?
So like with Islamabad United, I've been lucky enough to have had so many emerging players who've gone on to play for Pakistan, and suddenly, there was so much interest in them, and that's where you need to protect your players. Because so that's what franchises have done. I don't think there's been a single case where a player has been exploited from the emerging category, because everyone, as soon as your emerging player does well, every franchise immediately, because at the end of the day, he becomes your asset, he becomes your identity, and you obviously want to protect him. That's something franchises can do and are doing. Unless PCB says that franchises can have some sort of a say in how domestic season is done or how scheduling is done. For example, I'll give you an example. If you want to play the PSL in Karachi, we would want the pitches not to be as used as they are by domestic cricket. Okay.
Want more runs.
So we have no say in that.
Do you see why you don't, though?
I think there has to be a middle ground.
Okay.
I think there has to be a middle ground. I think that's something that's been discussed for a while, and I always say that I am sometimes very critical, but credit where credit is due, is that we are at a stage where things have gotten better, and communication is now at a level where if it continues, then everyone will reap benefits of it.
Okay.
And one more thing. So franchise cricket, I'm talking about PSL. You talk about overall franchise cricket in the world. Okay. Franchise cricket is you buy a team, you invest in the team, and so basically you run the team for 2 months. It's over.
Yeah.
PSL still does this. Like, PSL is the only franchise league in the world where the entire season, all 6 franchises are focusing on Pakistan cricket, highlighting the players playing for Pakistan. You don't see this in other leagues in the world.
It's cool, though. I respect that. It is nice. I know you got an expensive social media team because of it, but it's still nice to see you guys are awake around the season. You're not just there for 2 months.
Yeah, and I think that's a very positive sign for players, and especially players who, so a younger player coming in. I mean Wasim Junior, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
So Wasim, when we had those 4 matches and the PSL was postponed, Islamabad had only played 4 matches. In the lead up to the second half of the PSL, his videos were posted, his highlights were posted over and over and over again. Yeah. That is something that we can do for the players.
And you own him, I don't mean like as a person, but you take ownership of his success, not in a selfish way, but in a way where it's kind. It's like an incubator of sort.
I think like the selfish part of it is obviously you get certain gratification out of it, that this is someone you supported and all. But I think at the end of the day, even I'll give you an example. So Ahmad Butt was with Islamabad United for the longest time. He went to Peshawar Zalmi.
Yeah.
That does not mean that his relationship with us as a team has changed. That just means that when he does well, we are all happy for him.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of culture and environment we've always wanted to build, where when people come in, they feel very welcome. When they leave, they know that there are reasons for them leaving.
Yeah.
And we would, if it was any other way, if there was any way around it, we would still love them to be part of the family.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's professional sport and hard decisions need to be taken.
Yeah,
So
and the thing with that specific mention that you said, because you are a manager at Islamabad United, so obviously people listening to this are thinking, well, obviously he's paid to say this. But people know that I'm not an Islamabad fan. I'm a Quetta fan. I've been largely critical of many times when you guys have lost games as well. But the one thing that I've always connected the dots with when it comes to your team is that the litmus test for how you treat your players is when I see someone like Sam Billings 4 years down the road tweeting about Islamabad United and how great it was to be a part of that. Steve Finn doing the same. It's not me, it's not you saying this. These are real case studies of what that locker room was like, how you treated them, how the team was. So I think you guys have done that really, really well, because your alumni speaks for itself.
I think more than results, man, I know we won 2 trophies, but more than results, the thing that makes me the happiest about what Islamabad United has achieved, and it's not just Hassan or me, it is the entire team. So the in-house staff, the owner, I mean, Ali is someone, and I'm and I don't need to say this, but I'm just going to say it. Ali is someone who doesn't. Whenever he talks to the players, he always tells them he's proud to have them part of Islamabad United, and it's an honor to have them in the team, and they do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
they are here to have fun, play fair cricket. That's it.
You guys don't like the Ambani style of ownership. You've seen the Netflix documentary, right?
I have, and I think Shadab once mentioned this perfectly. He said the reason that it's so much fun to play here is that whenever a new player comes in and he wants to talk to some of us, so what we tell them is, you're here at Islamabad United, have fun, play cricket, enjoy your cricket. No one is going to put any pressure on you. You are going to get clear plans. You follow the plans. They work great. They don't work, you tried. That's it.
Yeah, fair enough, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a sport. I know it's high stakes, but it's still a sport. And in the future, with you guys having 6 teams right now at the PSL, might be 7 down the road, it will be a commercial success. We see all of the indicators telling us that, especially the fact that we haven't gone a single season that has been normal, like a normal PSL season, a full season in Pakistan without a raging pandemic, that we would then see how great the league is. You mentioned something about emerging players, $6,000 to $9,000. You said they get
roughly from $8,000 to $10,000. So previously it used to be 10 to 12,000. Now it's 8 to 10,000 because the dollar value has gone up. Sure. So basically the rupee. So we pay in rupees.
You pay in rupees. Okay, right, makes sense. Let me give you this as a proposition. You might not like it because it doesn't make financial sense for Islamabad. And I mean Islamabad because we have Rehan with us. It could apply to any franchise. Yeah. You get a Wasim Jr. or a Shahnawaz Dahani, star of the tournament, fast track to Pakistan. Of course, they're financially secure. But sometimes what happens is that you'll see a PSL star that might not be fast tracked to the Pakistan team. Mohammad Asghar was a bit like that, and a couple of other names. Is it a possibility for you guys to develop a retainer for them throughout the year? Has that ever been an option, or is that just doesn't make financial sense?
Right now it does not make financial sense. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. But down the road, when it does, and hopefully it will, that is the idea. That is the long-term idea of everyone, is that commercially it becomes so viable that we can not only make money for the franchise, because at the end of the day it's a business, and we can also then benefit all the players that are associated with it. So there are some things that we do for players which are different from, like, it gives them more security even if they are not part of the team. So the security element is there. For example, you can deduct money from players if they're not playing. Okay, so there's a certain amount that you can
Yeah.
deduct.
Yeah.
So there's the match fees and all.
Sure.
So, but we say we are all a family, we're all a team. Even the player sitting on the bench is contributing as much as the player who's playing.
Sure. Good way
Okay.
to look at it. Yeah.
So yeah, and then the bonus, and this is the other thing. So the bonus distributed between players, a platinum category player will make the same bonus that an emerging category player would.
Okay, so you guys just divide it across the board.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice.
So basically, even if there's something extra, because a platinum category player is already making more money, if there's something extra, then the
Yeah.
lower category players will get more.
Okay.
So this is something that's been there from season one, and Ali Naqvi himself is so basically he quoted an example of one of the players in PSL one who did not play a single match but still made the same bonus money. So I mean that happens. I'm
Yeah,
sure some
I
other
mean, this is the sports teams anywhere aren't built on 11 people. You need depth. You need people on the bench. You need some people use rotation, some people don't. So I think this is a very futuristic way of looking at a cricketing squad. Everybody is contributing, even if they're not playing.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So
Yeah.
just hypothetically,
Okay.
you have 11 players in your team.
Sure.
Okay, everyone scores 20 runs and you lose 10 wickets. So you'll score 200 runs. Okay,
Yeah.
is that better, or is someone scoring 75 of 60 balls and your team ending up at 180? What is better? 200 is better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is never about one player. It will never be about one player. And that's why I feel T20 cricket is very different from all other formats. Obviously, everyone will not score 20 runs. That's just a hypothetical situation.
No, I understand the strategy you're aiming at, though. I get what you're saying.
But the idea is that everyone plays for the team. You don't play for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, there was a match, Karachi Kings versus Islamabad United this season, first leg. So when I think Iftikhar and Hussain Talat had that amazing partnership. We were 76 for 4. They had an amazing partnership, and Ifti was on 49. 40, and that would have been his first PSL 50. He eventually got his first PSL 50 against Karachi.
Yeah.
So I mean, they at no point did this happen that Ifti said that I want to complete my 50. Okay, it would have been an achievement for him. We had already secured the match. We needed 2 runs on the last 7 balls.
Yeah.
Okay, but the message was clear that Asif Ali, if you get the ball in your zone, you hit it for 6 and end the match.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
You kill it when you get the chance.
Yeah. So I mean that match I think is a template for Islamabad United. Is that no one scored a 50 in that match, and we chased
I remember
almost
that game. Yeah, and it was a remarkable chase because you guys were 4 down very early in the game.
Yeah, and that's where I come back. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. That's where I come back to the low value wicket point. That a lot of people don't understand that sometimes we just send in batsmen. If they work, great. If they don't work, we don't lose anything.
I'm gonna get to this because this strategy is being emulated by the Pakistan team. It's very dangerous, the simulation. I wouldn't say that it's an exact the exact replica, but there is a certain feel to the dynamic batting order that we have and this new squad that we've released. I want to close this out before I talk about what's happening now at the national level. We could at the international level, we could talk about some happier, maybe some lighter topics as well, because what we've talked about today, in my opinion, is even more important than winning a World Cup. Honestly, like it's because it's superficial to say that right now. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the livelihood of maybe over 500 men, right? This is really tangible grassroots level stuff. And if you don't get this right, you could win multiple World Cups. People still won't play cricket for you because putting food on the table is primary. Now, I've seen the statements. You've seen the statements. The PCB is an independently run body, and if it was an organization, I would be a happy CEO because I'm turning out a profit, right? Yeah. Let's say like that. We can come to that conclusion financially.
Yeah.
Presuming that, because it is reductive of me to sit here and say, oh, they're selfish. They're not playing the players enough. Is that the only reason why? Like, it for me, it doesn't make sense that your number one stakeholder is always your players. You could easily pay them a lot more without having even a dent in those statements. Those statements are positive in the millions.
Yes,
players are making money in the hundreds of thousands or in tens of thousands in some cases. Yeah. So turning up the salary cap it seems like such an obvious decision. What do you think is stopping them from doing that? And is it possible that this is revised immediately? Because if you're aware of this and you're not even in the epicenter yet, I'm sure
Yeah.
they're also aware of this.
I think I think the problem is that the people that who came up with this initially, the average thing that I like, they were, I don't know what word to use. I'd call it naive. I'd call it under researched. I'd call it you
But
know
we know you're being kind with those terms.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically to just go along with them, that was not fine. Then suddenly they realized, okay, this is wrong. So then they created a new category when they paid players 180,000. Then they also increased some salaries. So for example, now a category B player makes something around 125,000 rupees per month. So that's a little higher. The lowest category player from 25,000 went up to 40,000 rupees. So I mean those were little small changes. So now, so basically what they are saying is that the percentage has increased drastically. But from what value did the percentage increase? Okay. And if you're going to increase this percentage, and and since I love math so much, I'm going to say this. You keep increasing this percentage every year by the same percentage that you increased last year.
Yeah.
And in 10 years, you will be making a loss. Okay. Because
but this percentage stuff is press release bullshit, isn't it?
yes, exactly.
It's me going
because now they want, so next year they won't increase it to the same level.
Yeah, this is me when I write a headline saying, I've lost, I've doubled my savings for 200%, and I've saved what now? I used to save $100, now I save 200. Oh, congratulations! So, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. I won't be as explicit as saying that they're lying, but it's half the truth, which is as bad.
I think it's I'd give credit to the media department. They've done a great job at it. And credit where credit is due, even if it's for this. The thing with this is that if you want to pay your players more and still keep making that money, there needs to be a simple solution for this. And the simple solution is that the revenue created by the Pakistan Cricket Board through TV rights and commercial deals in a year, a percentage of that must be given to players playing for the six teams.
All of them, not just the national players, but all.
Yeah, distributed amongst basic salary. On top of that, this. So immediately you incentivize yourself to make more money through commercial deals and TV right deals.
Yeah.
And immediately the players also then would have the security and would want to play better, because they know if they do well, then more people will watch them, more commercial money will come in, and that money will be going to them. The motivation level increases.
It's a win-win, isn't it?
It's a win-win.
But let me tell you this, Rehan, because we've talked a lot of fact about how the system is not the best. But as a spectator, these six teams has worked for me. Very, very tunnel vision, selfish statement here from me. But I watched all of the National T20 Cup. I wouldn't have done that 3 years ago with the departments and this and that, right? It was the best Pakistani players on show. It was very quick. It was well produced. It was on YouTube. It was accessible. They did tick all those boxes. The quality of cricket was slightly better than what you would have seen, or at least it was televised. And there was some changes that we saw that were heading in the right direction. Can I keep that as a spectator? Can I keep all of that and then just add what you've said, giving them a share of the revenue, and then we're fine. We're in a place where we can have this system and people are still making enough money.
Yeah, I think that will work. I think that will provide security, and then the trickle down effect will be that the money will go down to the junior levels of under 19, under 16, under 15s, under 13s. That will happen. Then you can, this can then become a self-sustaining model. You can also create a self-sustaining model by player transfers, which is if, for example, Shan Masood moved from one team to another team, then if there was some money exchanged in that, that money should go to the whoever's the investor, and that's an entire economy that you can build around. You can use your B teams to build players and then just trade them to first 11s for their teams. There's an entire economy that can be built around that. The other thing the other thing that I really wanted to point out is, and before I forget, I'm sorry I forgot this earlier, it's a very important point. So what happened was that the six teams that were made were randomly picked. People were put in some teams. There were people who sat together and assigned teams to each player, and they all looked really balanced. Credit to whoever did it. Credit to whoever was in charge of this. I know Nadeem Khan was one of the people who was in charge of this.
Yeah.
Misbah himself was involved, and Rashid Latif was involved as well, and they did a fabulous job in distributing players among teams. Okay, so now what happened? What's happening right now is that there is this urge to play players from your own region in your team. Okay. So basically, अगर आप ये मुझे कह रहे हो कि बलोचिस्तान से बलोचिस्तान के प्लेयर आएंगे, ठीक है, तो all the players who went from Punjab to Balochistan now have no team to play for.
नहीं, और बलूचिस्तान में इतने प्लेयर हैं
नहीं है. That's exactly.
That's the other problem.
नहीं है. और southern Punjab में there are more players from southern Punjab, which is great. But because most of the talent pool comes from either Sindh, which is because people move to Karachi at a very early age to play cricket if they're serious about it, or they move to parts of Punjab where cricket is you have club cricket and all for Rawalpindi, Lahore, Sialkot, all these regions. Okay, so if you are only taking players from those specific regions, then you are then not giving opportunities to guys who deserve that opportunity. Okay, I am in favor 100% of having local teams at a junior level. So at under 15, under 19, under 21 levels, you should only have players from your own region. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Even your second 11 should have players from your own region mostly. Fine. But if the idea is for a top 6 team to have the cream of the crop, then they need to be the best players. Doesn't matter which region they come from.
This is a soft signal, or this is a legislation that you need to have these players?
No. There's not legislation, but this is what's happening. Okay. This is what is happening right now. Okay. And if you look at the squads, this is what's happening right now. The other thing is that's happening is that a lot of the guys have the moving thing transfers without asking them. And a lot of the guys from the, as you mentioned earlier, from the second 11 teams who were told by their coach last season that I was so impressed by your performance that now you are going to come into the first 11. Now that the coaches have changed, they are back to the second 11.
Yeah, which is a financial issue as well, which is a career path issue as well. It's, again, that compounding problem that keeps persisting. So yeah, the top 6 teams, they should be the best of the best. Region, where you come from, shouldn't matter. I understand that. I think that's a good policy to have, the growth to be region, because that way we can build capacity in maybe regions like Balochistan. KPK has done really, really well recently. Like, a lot of the top players have come from there. So we can talk about that a later time. I'm going to quickly shift to international cricket and what's happening now. Before I do, I want to touch on one thing from a purely Islamabad United perspective, because Quetta have a venture in the Sri Lankan Cricket League, right? Kolkata have ventures everywhere. You see this happening. You see what's happening, right? You see these franchises now becoming mega franchises. I think you guys had some investments in Hong Kong and Canada as well.
Yes.
What about inward investments? Because I know Ali Tareen used to be a part of the Multan Sultans conglomerate. He isn't anymore, but he did go out and buy Southern Punjab. Why would it not make sense for you to say, okay, I'm gonna go and take over Central Punjab as well, and they can kind of become like this talent funneling machine for my franchise?
Firstly, I think one of the things is that what franchise cricket does is that it doesn't put so much responsibility on you. So basically, you can buy a team, and as I said, you can only run it for 2 months, and then you're off for the entire year. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen in Pakistan. PSL is very different. We work in a very different frameworks here because we have to get our commercials running throughout the year. We are not at the same commercial level as the other leagues in the world are. So we have to work throughout the year. Okay.
Yeah.
So one, that's easier. 2, as soon as PSL starts becoming profitable, okay, as soon as your biggest brand PSL starts becoming profitable, you can think about investing in the grassroots. First, you need to make money here. If you're not doing that here, why would you go there?
Yeah, okay? Fair enough.
So eventually, hopefully, yes, we are headed in the right direction, but we're not there yet. Okay.
Yes.
And then also there needs to be a certain amount of franchise cricket. You have complete, like, you are the owner of the team. You have complete say who's going to be the coach.
The autonomy is amazing, isn't it? Like, you get to do whatever you want.
You don't get that in domestic teams. Even if you buy one of the regions, you will not get that.
So of course, the profitability of investing in Hong Kong and Canada was obvious, but was there any cricketing strategic decisions?
So we did not have a team in Canada. I worked in Canada.
You worked in Canada. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I worked in Canada.
Yeah.
The Islamabad United did not have a team there. We had a team in Hong Kong. It was
Okay.
called Hong Kong Island United,
Yeah.
and that's because Ali lives in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And and basically it was also like mostly the team in Hong Kong was built around Pakistani players.
Okay. Yeah.
And the idea was, and the idea is, and I'll come back to that point. The idea was that when we went to play in Hong Kong, the foreign players that went to Hong Kong were Islamabad United players mostly.
Yeah.
So basically, that was for our own players, and normally we took some of the younger guys or players who were at the back end of their career.
Yeah.
For example, when Saeed Ajmal was almost done, we took him to Hong Kong to play for us there.
Sure.
We took Hussein Talat with us before PSL 3. I think playing there and then having that PSL 3 season, I think that was his best season, is because that happened in Hong Kong and he got that experience and then he translated it into the PSL.
Yeah. So you are building capacity a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, the idea behind that was that, but the Hong Kong league is now shut down. It's not happening. Eventually, the franchise cricket is such that there are so many leagues opening in the world.
Yeah.
I have worked with the GT20 in Canada.
Yeah.
I've worked with the Sri Lankan Premier League as well.
Okay.
I've also was working with the Euroslam. So just to give you these names, and out of these three, none of the three leagues is happening this year. One, because of COVID, and two, because eventually there will be only 3 to 4 sustainable leagues left in the world.
Yeah. And it looks like, thankfully, it looks like the PSL will be one of them.
Yes.
Money's there and the crowds are there and there's just a general interest. Well, I think we had a good conversation about this, defined the problem, even came up with a certain solution. Whether it happens or not, powers that may be, we'll have to look at that. But it's definitely possible. The money's being made. It's just a matter of, cutting a larger slice of the pie and a more pragmatic slice of the pie, a more dynamic slice, where you're making more money, so you dish more money out. It's as simple as that. Let's talk about stuff that's a little bit easier on the ears, a little bit lighter. We are recording this the day after Misbah and Waqar resigned from their national duties. There's been rumors that have now been put to rest about Babar. Well, actually, the press release doesn't say that he's going to continue as Test captain. The press release says that he's just happy with the direction that they're going in. So the words were very carefully chosen. Shout out to Wasim Khan. His PR is immaculate in terms of word choice. But Ramiz Bhai is in charge now. It's all happening. Last time he was in charge, we had our worst World Cup ever. I didn't even used to watch Pakistan cricket then. My first Pakistan Cricket World Cup was 2007, so it's been fun. But that being said, let's talk about, because everybody on Twitter, on Instagram, everybody talking about how bad the squad is, how some of the old guard that we love so much is out the window, and certain pockets of cities are also complaining, certain pockets of players are also complaining. I have a different view on this. I like the strategy. I like the fact that the only assured positions are 1, 2, and maybe even 4 with Hafiz, but everything else, anybody else can go. You started the conversation today with saying that you're optimistic about the squad that we've picked. Mohammed Wasim, I think his name. Mohammed Wasim is picked. So, what do you think? Are we winning? Well, I'm not going to say that's too reductive. What do you think of our chances? And do you think it's very Islamabad-like, this approach, not to toot your own horn?
I do not think it's like Islamabad United.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that in the Islamabad United model, you would not care for losing wickets in the power play. Your strategy would be to be 76 for 4 instead of 45 for 0. There's that's the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not that, but in terms of squad, also you need to take into account that at franchise cricket we have the luxury of picking foreign players. So we can bring in Alex Hales.
Yeah.
We can bring in Usman Khwaja and Colin Munro and fill up our top order with hitters and Paul Sterling and all. You in a national team, you only have the players that you have. Okay, Babar, Rizwan have done a fabulous job as openers, and I always come back to the point that I believe that anything that needs to be assessed by the theory of relativity. I know theory of relativity is For people who love physics, it's Einstein's theory of relativity. I won't get into details of that, but relative to a certain period in time and relative to what other team is doing, you then assess the performances. So I know Babar and Rizwan have criticism over the strike rate, but if you relatively look at their strike rates in the first 6 overs, Pakistan isn't that bad in terms of the number of runs they score versus the number of runs the opposition scores. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, relatively,
It's
even
not a red flag by any means.
it's not a red flag. Okay. So that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
The low value wicket idea is, and that's something that I have always been a big advocate of, is that if, for example, you lose a wicket in the power play, let's say Babar Azam gets out and you're in the second over, I would even send in someone like Sohaib Maqsood is fine then. But at number 4, I would send someone like, if you lose 2 early wickets, I would send someone like a completely,
Like an Asif.
like not Asif. Asif's someone that I need. If he fails, then I would send someone like even a Hassan or a Nawaz or a Shadab.
Radical now. Now you're talking radical.
Or an Imad. So basically the reason for that is that if that guy comes off, you gain a lot.
Yeah, you end up with 210.
Yeah, you automatically extend your batting order and the guy scores runs. If he fails, you lose nothing.
You lose a night watchman.
Yeah, exactly.
But we bat till, if Wasim Jr. plays, Rehan, we bat till 10, don't we?
Yeah, and that's why this needs to be done. That's why this, and that's what we've done every time, right? I know people have issues with Shadab batting at 4. Fahim batted in the top 4.
I actually, by the way, had an issue with you guys not promoting Fahim. I just didn't understand. I know that you really wanted to instill confidence in the likes of Asif and Hussain, but it just, for me, Fahim was batting so well. I just felt like he should have come up the order.
He had a hand injury. He couldn't hold it bat. So
that sums it up.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
So basically in the first leg of the PSL, the 4 matches that we played in Karachi, Fahim won us 2 matches with the bat, one against Multan and one against Karachi.
He had a better season with the bat than Shadab, I felt. At some point.
Yeah.
That's not to rain on Shadab because he had that really good season at 4 the year before.
Exactly my point, that one bad season doesn't mean that a player suddenly is a bad player. So Fahim had a bad PSL 5, was spectacular in PSL 6. Shadab had the highest wickets, most runs for Islamabad United in PSL 5, did not have a great season with the bat this season. That does not mean that there is a huge problem that needs to be addressed or something. There are certain injuries that players have. They all come back from it. No need to overthink about such things. But the thing about the team that I like is that if this World T20 was played in Australia, I would have guaranteed to you that Pakistan would not reach the semi-finals.
Okay, what are you guaranteeing to me now, though?
That if Pakistan does not reach the semi-finals, then there would be something majorly wrong with either the strategy or the person who's in charge of strategy or how we've managed the tournament.
You're saying we don't make the semis, heads should roll.
Yeah.
But heads have already rolled before the tournament. This is my problem. I look at it from a very a non-quantitative perspective. The way teams are run, it just doesn't make sense to well, I'm not going to say they were sacked, but for anybody to leave, and I know there were some mental health issues cited too. I don't want to like not put value to that. That's fair. If someone says that it's true, we'll leave it at that. But it's such a volatile time to do so.
Okay, so since you said the first World Cup that you ever watched was the 2007 World Cup.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you a little small history lesson. So before the 1992 World Cup semi-final, there was almost a revolt against the then captain Imran Khan. Okay.
Yeah. I know about the history, but I'm ready to hear it again. But
So the reason I'm telling you this is that whenever there is chaos, okay, and a lot of people say that it's a Pakistani trait that this happens. I don't think it's a Pakistani trait. I think that, and I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to math and physics. So basically, there's this concept where everything will eventually lead to chaos, and the only way that you will get back to any sense of semblance is after the chaos. Okay, so basically, Brazil have won 5 FIFA World Cups. In 4 of them, they lost their captain to injury or suspension 2 weeks before the tournament started. In all, four out of the 5 of them. Okay. where you will see so many examples of sporting teams coming together either because of some tragedy, either because something has happened a few days before the tournament that they all come together.
Yeah.
And so, for example, the when Pakistan won the World T20, the chief selector resigned after the first match. The captain said that this is fun T20 cricket.
I
Okay.
remember Yunus Khan saying
Yeah.
that. I was
Yeah.
super excited about it, and then I remember the
This
statement.
is like the WWE, and this and so basically the criticism, there was a lot of chaos, and that what that resulted in was that Yunus Khan and his men, they all wanted to prove everyone wrong, and they gelled together and won the tournament. Okay. When you are, and I honestly believe this, for, and call me superstitious, optimistic, but it's not superstition. Okay, laws of physics dictate that everything has to have entropy, and eventually there will be chaos, and from chaos you will get some
Yeah.
semblance of things coming together. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think this is anytime that this happens in Pakistan cricket before a tournament, it does not make sense to me, but it is under no obligation to make sense to me.
Yeah,
uh,
you know, your theory is proven through the scientific method. 2017, we're not supposed to qualify for the tournament. 2009 supposed to be a wrestling match. 92, you've talked about
yeah.
what you've just said. I would say, well, yeah, the test mace was a different story. It was a different kind of trophy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are. I mean, there's proof in the pudding. I definitely agree.
the
Although,
test the test match doesn't happen if the spot fixing thing doesn't happen.
okay, you're really reaching though now, because your timeline, you're going full Marvel universe here.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
building a timeline across like 4 years. But I see what you mean, because Misbah doesn't make the team if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, he doesn't make the team.
Yeah.
I think Yunus doesn't get the same authority that he did, because Yunus was dropped from the team. He had captaincy issues. He was banned from the team and everything, and then he comes back. And Yunus and Misbah were the main pillars of that test team. Uh, I honestly think that Ajmal doesn't get enough games, because then you would be relying more on your pacers, and
Yeah.
things would have been different. But that's all in the past. But what I'm saying is that if you look at this team, none of these guys would have a great record, let's say, outside of, apart from 3 4 of them outside of UAE. But in UAE, you look at their PSL record, you look at their Pakistan record, and you should be confident that they should do well. So you're a Chelsea fan, right?
Yeah. You saw the posters. Or what?
Yeah. So basically, when Chelsea won that Champions League in Munich, beating Bayern Munich
Yeah.
in Munich, that all also resulted from all the chaos that season. So all the great underdog stories have the team coming together after some incident that basically, and right now all the media hype, everything that's going around and all, and I am sure like the statement issued by the PCB as well, there will be a point when all these players will sit together and they'll say, let's just shut the noise from outside
Yeah.
and let's give it our all and see where this goes.
I feel like we should just follow organized chaos at this point, if that's what works. But
Yeah.
this example is so apt. I mean, I love talking about Chelsea 2012. I think because it was the worst Chelsea team. It was the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
One of our midfielders was debuting, is making his European debut on the day of the final.
Yeah.
Ryan
Yeah.
Prickett was making his debut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the fact that we won that game, and we beat Barcelona, we beat Napoli 4-1. It all
Yeah.
happened because there was a fallout with Andres Villas-Boas. He was not letting the gold guard play. He got
Yeah.
fired. We brought in somebody that had been Roberto Di Matteo had been at the club for a while before, and it was just this, as Osman Samiuddin says, there was a howl around it. There was a
Yeah.
certain, like, we have to win this now. There was a mentality around it.
Also, there's so much pressure that goes off. So basically, people need to realize, I'm big on data. I think everything is data and data. But like at the end of the day, these are human beings you're dealing with. Okay.
Yeah.
So when Pakistan loses the 2017 opening match to India,
Yeah.
suddenly even the most optimistic people like me are saying like, this team is shit. Their structure is poor.
We were
Nothing
optimistic about
happened.
2017. We were 8 out of 8 on that.
Yeah. And suddenly Pakistan was like, okay, fine. What's the worst thing that can happen? We
That's
lost.
what he used to say.
Yeah.
He says in all of his interviews that we had nothing to lose. We'd hit rock bottom.
Yeah. So when you're in that position, I think that's the best position to be in.
Okay.
I think it's horrible to go into any and having worked in cricket, I know, okay, when you go into something with where you have nothing to lose, you there is a certain level of, there's no fear of failure. There's only desire to win.
That
No
second
fear.
PSL you
Yeah,
won, you barely
yeah.
made it to the playoffs, didn't you?
So basically, I'll tell you. So we lost two matches.
Yeah.
We won the next two. We lost the next two. So we had to win in our first six games.
Yeah.
And there were only five teams back then. So Multan, because there were six teams, had 10 matches, so had more time to recover.
Yeah.
So we had to win every match from that point onwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could not afford to lose a single one.
Yeah.
And so we won that. And I remember there was not a single close match. It was all one-sided. Like
super
yeah,
dominant.
yeah.
Anyways, Rehan, it's been an hour and a half. I've loved every minute of it. A lot of facts and figures that, frankly, as a Pakistan fan, they bring you closer to the reality of what some of these young men go through. As much as I know through our community at Change of Pace how much we care about these guys, we actually do as fans. I know for a fact. I think this conversation will help people get closer to them, but also have maybe a tougher time to sleep at night, because it's just not okay, the financial situation that a lot of these guys are going through. And we haven't even touched like this entire plethora of women cricketers that will probably going through the same and much more. So there's a lot to unpack, there's a lot to improve on. However, if I was to force the silver lining out of this conversation, there are things that you've mentioned that are heading in the right direction. The PSL seems to be the spearhead of all those things. So maybe in the next 5 years, we're looking at a better system, and a more organized system as well.
One more thing. Since a player is now Pakistan national team player, a test player is now the chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board. I hope he understands what players go through.
You say this, Rehan, but Ramiz, I have my opinions on Ramiz. I think having him in the commentary box was always good for Pakistan, even though people don't like it. I think representation is good. But Ramiz comes from a pretty affluent background. I'm not sure if he would understand the dynamics of the financial issues some of the other guys go through. Is that going to be an issue?
I think even if he doesn't understand that what their needs are, he will understand at least that players need financial security.
Yeah.
Even he, because he's professionally worked in cricket for so long, he needed that security through commentary, through other gigs. So he would understand that there needs to be a certain level of security provided to players. And I hope that he starts a conversation. I honestly hope that conversation starts with the players. With the players, not some guy who comes and says, "Oh my God, I have found new averages." That's not how it works.
No, that doesn't work. It's just not the ground reality. Players have been speaking to Ramiz, even though it is the international level players that are first spoken to him. Next time we speak to you, Rehan, hopefully we're in the semifinal of the World Cup. Maybe we're in the final. Who knows? It is the UAE. We've done crazy things in the UAE. I had a pleasure of watching all of our cricket there, and I've seen some crazy finishes, some crazy games, and a lot of dominance too. People do forget in all formats of the game, we were pretty damn good in the UAE.
We were horrible in ODIs. We were
I
great
want to talk
in.
about the ODIs. Listen, we
Yeah,
didn't have any bowling. We had almost no batting. Let's
yeah.
just let that go. But in Test matches and T20 cricket, we were pretty solid. And honestly, outside of the World Cup, who really cares about one day internationals? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
Super League now, but it is what it is. It's been great. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
You guys
much
know
for
where to
having
find Rehan. He's the second most popular guy from Islamabad after Hassan Shima. But if you want to find us, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Change of Pace Live, Change of Pace 414. And people keep asking us why we have Change of Pace 414 as a Twitter handle. 3 reasons. Change of Pace Live wasn't available. 414 is the amount of wickets that Wasim Bayaz. And 414 is the number of the apartment where we first started. So it's just stars aligning. Anyways, we will speak to you guys during the World Cup. Rehan, again, thank you for your time. And
so much.
stay tuned to our YouTube and the rest of the conglomerate.